Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Working on a 2014 Dodge Dart, and I'm going to be putting in a clutch along with a clutch delay valve delete kit. A customer got stranded, thought the car was still under warranty, so he had it towed to his local Dodge dealership here in Colorado, and they quoted him $3,500 just to do the clutch on this car. So I'm going to see if I can help him out. We went ahead and pulled it here last night, as you can tell by the tow rope, and got the clutch components on order. They should be here later this week, but I'm going to go ahead and start tearing into this so I can get that flywheel off and go ahead and get that resurfaced. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is pull my e-brake and go ahead and block the rear wheels. Next we can go ahead and start jacking it up. Come underneath on the driver's side here. I'm just going to jack it up on the pinch weld here. Also place my jack stand there. And for right now I got to use my little jack because I'm kind of in a tight area here. But once I get it up and that shield off the front, I'll be able to jack it up higher and use my taller jack stands. Then go ahead and remove both wheels. These are going to be a 19 millimeter or a 3/4 inch. Under the front of the car, I'm going to go ahead and start removing this skid plate along with the fabric one as well. And you got a bunch of 8 millimeter bolts here along the front, and then you also got some 10 millimeters holding this one on as well. Some of these are broke, and then it goes all the way back to the subframe there. So just go ahead and pull any bolts that are holding this shield on. And it looks like you got a couple 8 millimeters here on the inner fender well holding it on as well. Next I'm going to start removing some of the stuff up top here. So I'll go ahead and disconnect the battery first. It's a 10 millimeter. Then you can pop this open and just loosen this battery terminal nut here, the 10 millimeter. Should be able to just pull this whole thing off, close that back up, kind of just tuck that out of the way for now. And then on the front of the battery you got your hold down right here. It's going to be a 10 millimeter as well. Then you should be able to just slide your battery and pull it out. Then you got a clip here holding your positive terminal on. Pop that off. And looks like another one right here. Just going to pop that off the fuse box here. And one more right here, which is already kind of coming out. Alright, we need to get this battery box out. So it looks like we got a couple more clips here. Looks like one for the negative cable here. Pop that one off. And it looks like there's one right here behind the washer fill. And then another one right here. And then it looks like this ground wire here. You're gonna have to pull that off, but I think I'll just pull it off on the battery box here. And it looks like there's a little clip here holding the wire on this harness. Let's pop that out. Grab you a 10 millimeter. I'm just going to put that nut back on there. I'm going to pull off this engine cover here, and I think it should just pull off. It just snaps on there, I believe. Yeah. And then I'm going to unplug this control module here, and I think you just push on this little black tab, pull up, and then you should be able to pull that off like that. Just be careful not to bend any of them pins in there. Same thing on this one. Just like that. I'm gonna pull off this 10mm on the fuse box. I'm gonna pull that 13mm there on the battery. So to get the rest of that battery tray off, you got to climb under the vehicle, and you got two 13mm there, and it looks like we got another wire clip here, or actually two of them that we got to pop off. Pop those off. So in order to get this battery tray out, it looks like I got another bolt back down underneath here that I may have to pull, and it's hard to get to, so I'm going to pull off this inner fender well anyways, because we're going to have to do that to replace the clutch delay valve, or put that delete kit on anyways. So I'll go ahead and pull this off. So in order to get this fender well off, you got all these little plastic clips here, and what you do is you just stick a little small flathead under here, just kind of like that. Pop that off, and then you pull this out, get up under there, and it just pops out like that. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of these out. You got one right here, looks like one right here, another one up there, and then on the inside here, as you can see, you got these little 8mm bolts as well that you'll have to pull off. So with that inner fender cover off, we can take a look, and you can see we got a 10mm there that's holding on the washer fluid reservoir, but then back behind it, right in there, is another 13mm holding that tray on. And then it looks like we got one more clip right here, that gray one, that we need to pull off, and hopefully that battery tray will come out. Alright, now let's see if this thing will come out. So you got another clip here. Alright, so as you're pulling that out, you may have to use a pry bar because your headlight here kind of gets in the way. And then I had one more clip. You can see it right here behind the washer fluid that was getting stuck on there. So I just went ahead and put some electrical tape over these, just kind of like that, just to help prevent any dirt or tiny pebbles falling down in them. So then looking down here at the transmission, I'm going to go ahead and pull this bracket, and then there's this sensor here I'm going to go ahead and unplug that. It's going to be a 10mm on the sensor. Get that up out of the way. I'm just going to put the bolt back in there so I don't lose it. Now through the driver's side fender well here, we'll go ahead and disconnect this ground wire from the transmission. It's going to be a 13mm. So next we'll go ahead and see if we can start getting some of this other stuff around the wheel off, so we can get them CV axles pulled. So I'm going to take a 36mm and try and spin off this axle nut. See if my impact has enough power just to spin it without having to bend these tabs back. So on the back side of the wheel here, I'm going to take a E14 Torx like that, and I'm going to stick that on the lower ball joint bolt there. And I'm going to use my impact to get that off, and take a 16mm wrench, put that on the backside nut here. Let's go ahead and zap that off. And I'm going to grab some PB Blaster or WD-40, and I'm going to spray in here, so hopefully we can get this ball joint separated. Then you can go ahead and grab a large pry bar. See if we can get under here to see if this will separate or not. Just try not to damage the ball joint. That's good, at least it's free. Alright. Next I'm going to go ahead and remove my tie rod nut here. It's going to be 18mm. Then you can grab a mini sledge and hammer on that, see if we can separate that. Like that. And it looks like it's turning, so let me get a Torx bit for that. So if that starts turning on you, just grab an 18mm wrench and then a Torx T40. Stick your Torx up in there just to hold that, and then you can go ahead and loosen it with your wrench. Pull that up out of the way. Alright, with that out, let's see if we can get this out now. Just like that. And like I said, watch yourself, because this will spring back. Just get that uncaught off of there, just like that. And let's go do the same to the other side. So again, grab your 16mm, stick that on your nut, grab your E14 Torx, PB Blaster, grab your 18mm, Just like that. And then you can go ahead and remove your axle nut all the way. And then take some PB Blaster W40. And then I just take a mallet and then just hit on that CV shaft. Loosen it up. You should be able to pull that out. And then you go ahead and take your thumb and press on the axle shaft right there where the axle nut goes. Push your CV axle in. Also pulling out on your steering knuckle. And pull that out with the steering knuckle just like that. Let it hang. And then underneath the vehicle here, got your transmission. And you can see your CV shaft coming out of the transmission right there. So you're going to take a pry bar, get yourself a drip pan in case some transmission fluid comes out. And you're going to go right in between the transmission and your CV axle, and you're going to pry that way, just like that, to pop that right out of the transmission. So kind of like that, and you can see the CV shaft starting to come out there. So let me set the camera down and we'll pull that all the way out. So over here on the passenger side, it's a little bit different getting the CV axle out. It's a lot longer than the driver's. And looking in here, you can see you got those two bolts right there, which are going to be 13mm we need to take out. And then down below it, you can see right back in there is one more 13mm that we need to remove. Same as the other side, just pull your axle nut off. And that one's already popping out of there. We'll still spray it with some PB Blaster though. And then yeah, just push in with your thumb, pull out, and pull on the steering knuckle. And get your CV joint over here out of the way. Alright, so with those bolts out on that bracket, this bracket should move freely. And then you should be able to just pull on your CV shaft here. Yep. And that just pops out. You don't have to really use the pry bar or anything on that. Get under here. And just go ahead and remove it. Next I'm going to go ahead and spray my exhaust bolts because we're going to have to take those off. So we're going to let them soak for a little bit. I'm on these ones here. Spray them and let them soak. Hopefully they don't break when I go to take them off. Then go ahead and grab a 13mm. Let's see if we can get these exhaust bolts off here without breaking them. Same thing on the front. Try and break these free. Okay, and then we should be able to pull this and then just pull that exhaust out. Just like that. Put my nuts back on here so I don't lose them. So before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and jack that up under that subframe, just so I can get taller jack stands under here, because I just want to make sure I got enough room to drop the transmission out of here, since I got more clearance now. Next, I'm going to remove these four over here on the driver's side, and these are going to be E18 Torx. And these are different sizes, so the long ones are going to be the first two, and then the shorter ones are going to be going the ones towards the back of the car. So then we need to remove this cross member piece here. Looks like we got three 15mm bolts here, so go ahead and pull those off. Next, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the clutch delay valve. Since we're going to replace all this, I'm just going to disconnect it here. And I think let me zoom in here. It's got this little clip here. I think you just come from the back side, kind of push up on it. Yeah, and then pull out like that. And I'll grab some line wrenches and we'll disconnect that. Then grab you a 14mm line wrench and also a 10mm. And see if you can push towards each other on that. Also make sure you got a drain pan underneath that. So back up top here, see what else we need to take off. Looks like we're going to have to do the linkage here. Let me zoom in on that. So looks like we got linkage here. It's held on by this clip. So I'm going to take a flathead, push down on that one, and then use my thumb, pull up on this one. And then just out that way. So that just pulls off just like that. And then looks like we need to undo this one here. Looks like that just I think that just pops off. So I'm going to try prying it off. I'm just going to use this. See if we can get under there without breaking it. Get under there and just pry lightly. Hopefully it doesn't break. Okay, just like that, that pops off there. And let's see. So now we need to remove it out of this bracket back here. And there's that little orange clip there. So I'm gonna grab a pry bar and I'm just gonna go underneath here. And then I'll zoom in. So I'm directly underneath that orange clip, and I'm just gonna try and pry up on that. Just like that. So now that one's loose off the transmission. And then this one here, it's kind of the same thing, but it's kind of hard to see back in there. Let's see if I can get my camera in here for you guys. You can see it right there, that white clip. So I'm going to try and do the same thing on this one. So I just put my pry bar right underneath that clip. And just like that, same thing, just pops right out of that bracket there. Okay, so we're out of that. Let's see what else we need to get off of here. So on top, I'm going to go ahead and try and get two of these bolts off. That looks like they may be a challenge. Just get them out of the way while I'm up here. Let me zoom in here. They're on top of the transmission there. So you got one there, which is going to be a 13 millimeter, and then that one behind it's going to be a 15. So let me see if I can get those off out of there. Try and do the 13 millimeter first. Use a 6-inch extension. And just going to try a breaker bar for now. See if I can get on it. Finally got that one out. So that's what that looks like. So now let me try and get that other one, like I said, a 15 millimeter. Not sure how that's gonna go. So this one's a real pain to get to from the top. So I grabbed a 15 millimeter stubby wrench, and I'm gonna go underneath and try and see if I can get it from behind, see if that works. Alright, so I was able to get that out, and as you can see, these are different sizes. So as I start pulling these bolts out of the transmission, I'm going to go ahead and make a diagram just to show, so I know where they go when I go to put them back. And then another bolt holding the transmission on is going to be right here behind this bracket, and that's going to be a 13 millimeter as well. So let me go ahead and pull that out. And that's what that one looks like. And then you can see it went right behind that bracket there, so it's holding that bracket on to the engine there in transmission. And just below that one, you got another 13 millimeter right down there. And it looks like on that one I can't pull out all the way because the exhaust is getting in the way. So what I'm hoping is that one's pulled out just enough to where the tranny will still drop with that all the way over. And just below that one we just did, you got another 13 millimeter. So go ahead and pull that off. Alright, so now we're on the other side of the transmission. Just pulled out this bolt. So now we go ahead and do this 13 millimeter. And then same thing on the other side here. So before I move any further, I'm going to go ahead and grab my transmission jack and go ahead and support the transmission. Also, I'll probably grab a jack and put a wood block underneath the oil pan here as well, just to help support. And then I got one of these transmission jacks. I'm not sure how well it's going to work on this transmission, but we'll give it a shot. So just kind of like that, just support it a little bit, and we can go ahead and drop the rest of them bolts. Alright, so with all that kind of supported there, I'm going to go ahead and undo another bolt. That's going to be that one. It's going to be a 15 millimeter up by the starter there. So we'll go ahead and take that one off. Alright, and we should be good just to leave that kind of sitting in there like that. That should work. Next I'm going to pull off this flywheel cover. You guys don't have to do this, I'm just curious to see what's behind here. It's a 10 millimeter. And as you can see, it looks like he has a bunch of clutch fibers and stuff in here. So back up top here, you can see we're getting close because it's already starting to separate. And before we go any further, I'm going to unplug these two sensors here and also undo this clip here, because I don't want that getting caught on anything as we're trying to pull the transmission that way. So go ahead and these should just unplug. Should just be able to push on that. Yep, just like that. And then the black one here. Let's see where I got. Looks like it's right here, the tab. So with that unplugged, you should be able to get this out of there. Out of our way. So yeah, just like that. That should leave us enough room. And then, like I said, we're starting to separate already. Looks like that bolt was just fine. There's that dowel in there. So yeah, that bolt was just fine leaving in there. So with that supported, grab your Torx E18. Let's go ahead and start removing some of these mounting bolts here. Like I said, make sure engine's supported and your transmission as well before you start doing this. And all three of those are going to be the same size. So as you can see, we're separated now from the transmission on the back side here. So back up top here, here's our transmission mount. We got 3 bolts that we need to take out on that. And the one over here, it's kind of hard to see, but it's down in here. This fuse box is getting in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a 10mm wrench, pull off this nut and washer here, and then loosen this one up maybe, and hopefully we can just kind of tilt this out of the way just to get to those bolts. And that should be just enough. Like I said, we just had to get it out of the way a little bit to get to that bolt, so that should work just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and break these loose. Go slow and just keep an eye on down there. Don't want this dropping or anything. Like I said, again, make sure everything's supported real well. And hopefully it's just these 3. And I'm hoping we can just drop it from here. The other thing I was worried about was the subframe getting in the way. So hopefully we don't have to drop that. Okay, so before I totally pull those out, I'm going to go make sure everything's good down there. So now I'm going to slowly pull these out by hand. Alright, so as you can see, we're separating even more. But the problem it looks like we're going to have when we're sliding it over is, you can see here, where that black boot is, that's going to hit that motor mount, or that transmission mount. So I think what I'm going to have to do is take off these 3 bolts here, and then that way I can remove this bracket here, so we have more room to move the transmission towards the driver's side and drop it down. So try and, if you can, get this fuse box out of the way a little more. Just try and tilt it up out of the way. And then those 3 are gonna be 18mm. And then you can pull that bracket out of there, and that gives us a little more room. So back underneath the vehicle, I think we're ready to start pulling it towards us. Like I said, I'm hoping that we have enough clearance here to where I do not have to take out this whole subframe, because that's a lot more work to do. So like I said, I'm hoping there's just enough clearance here. Bring it this way and hopefully drop it down. So let's see what we can do here. So as you saw, I got the transmission out. It was a little bit of a challenge. Just take your time, go slow, make sure you're not snagging on anything. And as you probably saw, it wanting to tip over there a few times, so just be really careful as you're bringing that out and down. And as you saw, there is enough clearance here to where you don't have to drop that subframe like I thought I was going to have to. And it's getting late tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Tomorrow, after I get off work, I'll go ahead and start pulling that clutch and get that flywheel off so I can take it and have it resurfaced. And also, I don't know if you saw in the video, but I had quite a bit of oil leaking out of the transmission as well. So if you guys want, I was just trying to save some money and not have to buy fluid, but it didn't work out too well. You see the drain plug down there? You can go ahead and drain the transmission if you want before you start dropping it. Just as this started tipping over, I had quite a bit of oil coming out of the CV axle shaft seal there. So, and take a real quick look here inside the transmission. You can see the clutch fibers everywhere, and you can totally tell the slave cylinder throwout bearing needed to be replaced. So we got parts on order. Next, go ahead and grab yourself a 10 millimeter, and we'll go ahead and start taking off the pressure plate here. And as you can see, that clutch is toast. So that is why he was stranded, and we are replacing it. And then we'll go ahead and remove the flywheel. So grab a Torx T55 bit. So that's what that looks like. So I'll go ahead and get this resurfaced. Okay, so it's been a few days, got some of the parts in. As you can see, got the flywheel resurfaced. Local machine shop here in town did it for 67 bucks. And then a brand new pressure plate along with the clutch. And this is going to be that clutch delay valve delete kit that I'm going to throw on there. And then a brand new slave cylinder along with the clutch alignment tool as well. All this stuff is Mopar brand, factory OEM stuff, except for the delete kit, of course. And I picked all this stuff up at modernperformance.com, which I'll put a link in the description so you can check that out. And then today I picked up 2 quarts of this Mopar 75 weight transmission oil specific to this vehicle. And if you can, get that stuff from Modern Performance, because it's only $21 a quart there. What I paid at the local dealership, they wanted $31 a quart for this stuff, so pretty pricey on it. And so the only thing I'm waiting on is new seals for the output shaft, CV axle seals there. You can see it's kind of wet with oil around there, so I wasn't sure if they're leaking or what. Same thing on the other side. Of course, some of that oil is from when I was pulling the transmission out and it was leaking out of it. So I went ahead and ordered new ones of those. And for some reason, the local auto parts stores only list ones for the automatic transmission and not the manuals. So I don't know what's up with that, but I had to order them straight from the dealership here as well. It cost me about 15 bucks per seal. So before I go ahead and put the flywheel back on, I'm going to clean this up with the vacuum and some brake clean. And if your guys' rear main seal is leaking, now would be the good time to replace it. But as you can see, it's dry on this one, so I'm not worried about it. So next you can go ahead and grab your flywheel and stick that up in there. Get that somewhat on. and then you'll have to rotate it to get your holes lined up. Looks like about right there is where we need to be. So all 7 of your bolts will go in. And then just kind of press that on there so it sits on there. Grab your bolts, and then I'm reusing these bolts. A lot of people buy new ones, but I'm just going to reuse these. And then I'm just going to use some little bit of blue thread locker on them. And then go ahead and put those in. And then I'm just going to screw all these in by hand, kind of like a tire going the star shape pattern. So once you get those tightened by hand, I'm just going to use my impact to tighten those up. It's just a lot easier. If you want to use a torque wrench, these are going to be 118 foot-pounds each. And then before I put the clutch on, I'm just going to give this flywheel one last cleaning just to make sure this surface is all clean for the clutch. Next, go ahead and grab your clutch. And you got 2 sides on this. And it should say on one side, this one says gearbox side. So this side will go towards the driver's side, towards the transmission. Stick that up in there, along with your alignment tool. And then you got these 3 little notches sticking out. So you want to get your pressure plate lined up on them notches. Yeah, looks like I need to go over one. So like that. And then start grabbing your pressure plate screws and sticking those in, getting them started. So once you get all your pressure plate bolts tightened by hand, go ahead and grab your torque wrench, and these are going to be torqued to 18 foot-pounds. See if I can do this without it turning. And then you want to go in a star pattern as well. So next I'm going to do the clutch delay valve delete. So looking back at the firewall, your clutch delay valve is going to be this little cylinder here, but we need to remove this whole coil and everything. We already did this side when we disconnected everything earlier. So now we just need to grab a tool, remove this little wiring harness clip here. And it looks like that just kind of snapped off there. Oh well, that'll work. And then grab yourself a pick. And inside that little coil there, zoom in here, you can see that little clip there. That little clip right up there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull on that. Just pull down. So it's kind of out like that. And then we can rotate this now. Let's just see if this will pull out. And you may need a rag or something in case brake fluid comes out of that. Let's see. You may just have to wiggle it. Yep. So that just comes out like that. And then take your new one. Make sure you got your O-ring on there. I just lube that up with a little brake fluid. And then you want to stick it in there far enough to get that clip over this little ring right here. So you may have to wiggle it around a little bit. Once you get that in there, go ahead and press up on that clip. And then just pull on it, make sure it's seated in there correctly. So that should be good. And then as you can see, there's no clip thing around this, so I'm just going to pull this off because we won't need that anymore. And then I'm going to go ahead and vacuum out all these clutch fibers real quick, and we'll go ahead and clean this up and do the slave cylinder. Next, I'm going to go ahead and do the slave cylinder. So grab yourself a 10mm, and you got 2 bolts here that we need to remove. Then you can go ahead and pull out on this. You got these little tabs here holding it in. Just pull it out a little bit. It's kind of like that. And then we'll get the line off here. And then on the side here where the slave cylinder comes out, go ahead and get a pick or something and see this little clip here. Pull out on this. Just to where it's like that. And then you can pull out on this. That comes undone like that. And now, not quite sure how this comes out of here. Grab a flathead here and see if we can pry this. So that kind of disconnects there. And figure out what else I need to do to get this off. So this next part's kind of weird. You can see all these little tabs that are going into the little indentation there on that slave cylinder. So I'm going to try and pry these open while pushing that way. See if I can get it off of here. So kind of like that. Now let me try the other side here. So then I should have one more left. So kind of like that. And when I go to the dealership tomorrow to pick up those seals, I'm going to see if I can get another one, because as you can see, when I pop that off, it broke off that little tab here. So I'll see if they got a replacement at the dealership, but like I said, that's a pretty stupid design. And then you should be able to remove the slave cylinder now. Just like that. And then I'm just going to spray some brake clean in here and get this all cleaned out the rest of the way. Okay, so that's about as clean as I'm going to get it. And then you can go ahead and grab your new slave cylinder, and we'll stick that in. And again, that should just snap in there. Kind of like that. And then go ahead and grab your 10mm bolts. So with your torque wrench, these aren't very tight at all. It's just 68 inch-pounds. So I'm just going to do 70 because that's what my torque wrench is going to. Let's tighten these. So with my slave cylinder in, that's about all I can get to until I get those seals picked up tomorrow from the dealership. And then I'll also try to find this piece here as well. So I ended up getting the seals, but I could not find this part. They said they could get it, but it would be a few days. And they wanted $17 just for this little plastic thing. So I still got 3 clips holding it on, so it should be just fine. So let's go ahead and put that on. Pull off the cap. And then make sure you got that O-ring on there still. And then go ahead and slide this on. And then push it in there. Just like that. So yeah, that'll still work just fine. So next I'm going to go ahead and pull off the seal. This is going to be my new one, so you can kind of see what it looks like. I'm going to try just a normal seal puller, just kind of like this. And I just want to be careful because you don't want to gouge any of the this metal here where your seal goes around. So you don't want to damage that as you're pulling this out. So you just stick your hook in there, and then you're going to have to pry. So you can see how it's kind of coming out there. Just keep tapping on it. And that pulls off just like that. And then, like I said, I got these straight from the Dodge dealership. There's the part number if you need that. And this is going to be for the passenger side. And then I'm going to just wipe any dirt or anything that was in there. And then what I found is I got this 36mm 12-point socket, and as you can see, it fits in there just perfect on this seal without damaging any of this rubber. So this should work good at putting this on here. So get your seal lined up perfectly in there. Scoot this back a little bit. Just like that. Go ahead and do the other side now. And then kind of same thing for the driver's side. Take your puller. There's your old seal. Take your new seal. Grab some of this oil. Just kind of lube that up a little bit. And then this is going to be the part number for the driver's side one. And then kind of same thing. 36mm fits. It's not as good of a fit, but it'll work. Just fits on there like that. just like that. Alright, so I got my transmission on the jack here, and went ahead and took out the alignment tool and just double check everything, and we should be able to start lifting this up. So we'll see if I can do this by myself here. Okay, so as you can see, I got it up in there. I tried to record as much as I could. I actually had to call someone over to help me. I had them stand at the top to help me guide it in while I was down here on the bottom, making sure I cleared everything and got it up in there. And I started a couple bolts just to hold it on there, but I also got the jack still holding it up, and same with on the engine and the block of wood on the oil pan there, just to help support it. So now let's go ahead and start putting some more bolts in and the mounts. And as you can see, I went ahead and just started these 3 bolts here. Just got them started to kind of hold that in, and same with the starter bolt as well. And kind of same thing on top here. Got that one started along with this one, and then I put this bracket back into place with the 2 oxygen sensor wiring harnesses here. So I got those started, and I still got to put the other 2 in back here. So with those kind of started, I'm going to go ahead and put the transmission mount back on here. Get this fuse box out of the way again. I'm just going to kind of leave those somewhat loose, and then get the rest of those the bottom ones in there. And so as you can see, we're kind of off a little bit, so I'm going to have to go down there and jack it up some to bring these up to this mount, and then maybe slide it back a little bit. Okay, so I got those just started for now. So before I tighten those up there, I'm going to make sure I can get these ones in down here below first. So go ahead and get those lined up and started. And you may have to rock the engine and transmission a little bit just to get these lined up just right. Then you go ahead and tighten them up. So with those tight down there, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these ones up here. Then you can grab your 18mm, and we'll go ahead and tighten the top mount ones here. So with all the transmission mounts tight, we should be good to lower this now. Get our jack out of the way. And then next I'm going to get the rest of these bell housing bolts in and tight. Just remember on the top here, all the way back, the one that's hard to get to, this 15mm goes all the way to the back, and that's the one that goes through the top part of your starter. And like I said, it's easier to get to from the back. And before I tighten that all the way, I'm going to go ahead and stick this 13mm in, just right next to it. And this one being where it's at, I doubt I'll be able to get a torque wrench in here, so I'm just going to go as tight as I can by hand. Alright, so with that one tight up there, I'm going to go ahead and do like a star pattern as I'm tightening these bell housing bolts. And the torque specs say that the bell housing bolts are supposed to be torqued at 24 foot-pounds. So I'm just going to go, that doesn't seem like much, so I'm going to go a little bit over that, so like around 26. And then just remember, this one here is a different size. That's a 14 millimeter on your starter. And same thing on that one. Can't get a torque wrench in there with a socket on it, so just gonna tighten it by hand. All right, so that should be all the bell housing bolts. I'm gonna go ahead and just go over those one more time, just make sure everything's tight. And then while I'm down here, I'm just gonna go ahead and take out this 10 millimeter. We'll put our flywheel cover back on. Next, I'll go ahead and snap in our shifter cables here. Again, the orange and the white clip. And these should just be able to push down on these. Let me get it snapped on here first. It just snaps on there like that. See if I can get some light back in here. And then I believe these should just snap, push down on them and snap back into that bracket there. Yep, just kind of like that. And then the same thing on the white one. I'm going to snap it in here first. That just pushes down. And let's see. That one's harder to get to. I'm going to see if I can snap that white clip in first before I do this. Okay, so that's in. Just like that. Next, I'll go ahead and get our exhaust put back on. So next, I'll go ahead and put on this cross member piece. So grab our bracket here, get that started. And then next I'm going to go ahead and connect our slave cylinder line to the delete kit here. Then go ahead and connect that line to your slave cylinder. Again, make sure that gasket's on there. And then this clip out. and then just push on there, and then push that clip back. Just like that. And while you're up here, you can go ahead and plug in your 2 oxygen sensors here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and do the passenger side CV axle. Kind of hard to get the camera in there so you guys can see it, but go ahead and slide that in there. And then you may just have to pull out a little bit and turn it just to get them splines lined up correctly. Kind of like that. And then again, go ahead and pull out on your steering knuckle. So you get your CV shaft slid in through there. Just like that. Then again, remember on this side, you got the 3 bolts holding that CV shaft in, 1 on the bottom and then 2 on the top there. So go ahead and stick those in and tighten them down. Next, I'm going to try to get my ball joint back into my steering knuckle here. So again, take a pry bar. See if I can push down on this while also moving the steering knuckle. Just like that. And then stick your bolt through. And then you go ahead and torque that lower ball joint nut to 60 foot-pounds. Then go ahead and put your tie rod back on. And that started turning on me, so I'm going to use a Torx 40 and then an 18mm wrench to get that tight. Once you get that tight, you're going to want to torque that to 97 foot-pounds. Then you go ahead and screw on your CV half shaft nut. We'll get that tight, and we'll do the final torque when the wheels are on the ground for that. So kind of the same thing. Just get your splines lined up. And go ahead and stick your CV shaft in there. Just like that. And then I just want to show you guys, so it should look like that when it's clicked in all the way. You may just have to put quite a bit of pressure on it to get it to snap correctly into the transmission there, but that's what it should look like. And then go ahead and put your CV shaft into your steering knuckle here. Then of course, same thing, tie rod in. Then go ahead and plug in your sensor here on your transmission. And do the screw and put that bracket on. Then go ahead and put your battery box in. Alright, so I got all my bolts tightened on the battery box along with the fuse panel. I didn't record it just to save some time here. And then before I put these on, I want to bleed that slave cylinder. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and drain the transmission real quick here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these this oil drain plug here. Like I said, I should have done that at the beginning, but I was trying to save some money on oil. So I'll go ahead and pull this, drain the rest of the oil out, and then we'll refill. That's going to be a 12mm Allen head, and you may have to loosen it first, but then you don't have much room to pull this out, so loosen it as much as you can. And then I'm just going to take the socket, stick it in there, put a pair of vice grips on to get it out the rest of the way. Alright, so once that's done draining, you go ahead and put your plug back in. Alright, so right above that drain plug is going to be your fill plug there. It's that little rubber black cap there. What you want to do is just grab some pliers or something, reach in here, and then go ahead and pull that off, just like that. So the way I'm going to fill it is took a piece of tubing and then an old gear bottle lid that I put on the new quart of oil that I'm going to be using, and this should take about 1.8 quarts. So I'll go ahead and fill it. Alright, so I put just about 1.8 quarts, maybe a little more in there. Let me just check my level real quick with an Allen wrench here. As you can see, according to that, we look good. So grab your fill cap and go ahead and throw that back on, and that just pushes in there. Just like so. With that transmission full of oil, next we'll go ahead and bleed the slave cylinder. So go ahead and pull the cap off your brake / clutch master cylinder here, and I'm just using some DOT 3 and 4 brake fluid. Go ahead and fill that to the top with a max line, and then what you want to do is pull off this little green cover off the bleeder nipple here, and then take the clear piece of tubing that they give you with the delete kit. Go ahead and stick that on there. And then I'll show you, I just got a cup here with some brake fluid in it. So you can go ahead and stick that line in some brake fluid there. And then what you want to do is you'll need a helper, so somebody in the car, and what you're going to do is push down on this tab here, and while you're doing that, you're going to pull out on this line, and that'll let fluid come through this line here. So with the pedal up right now, like I said, press down on this, pull out like that. You see how much it came out. And now go ahead and press down. See the air bubbles coming out. Now before it goes up with the pedal, push that back in. All right, go up. And then you just keep repeating this process. Down. Up. Down. Up. Down. Up. And you're going to have to keep repeating this process. It could be up to 20 times or more as well. So just keep doing it until your pedal feels a little better. And also, as you're doing this, you want to make sure your master cylinder is topped off as well. Okay, so we got all the air bubbles out. It does take a while to get this done, so that's why I didn't record the whole thing, but just keep pumping it or pressing down and then pushing back in, and just keep repeating that process until all the air bubbles are gone and your clutch pedal feels normal. Next, go ahead and connect your wiring harness things here. We'll just go on like that and press down. And then you can, little wiring clips here as well too, that go into the battery box. Then go ahead and grab your battery. And next, don't forget about this ground wire here that connects onto here. It's a 10 millimeter. Next, we go ahead and put our little plastic engine cover back on. And then in the wheel well here, I almost forgot another ground wire, which goes right here onto the transmission. Then you go ahead and put your wheel well back in. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get this jacked up, get the wheels back on, and also the skid plate. And then before I go ahead and throw the wheel on, I'll go ahead and torque this CV axle nut here. That's going to be 180 foot-pounds. And we're about right where we were before, so I'll go ahead and take a screwdriver and hit that notch back into these two grooves here. Alright, so I got the skid plate all back on, wheels and tires, and I'll go ahead and do the final torque, which is going to be 100 foot-pounds on the wheels. Alright, so that's going to do it for the video. Just got back from a test drive. Everything seems good. Again, this was a 2014 Dodge Dart. Went ahead and replaced the clutch along with doing a clutch delay valve delete kit. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and check out some of my other videos. And until next time, thanks.